The Rob, Ben, and Joe Show is the premier high school football call-in show in the state of Georgia. Scoreboard show every Friday night from 10 p.m. until midnight. And I just can't, I don't feel like I'm doing them justice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring them in and get them on here with us and let them say hello. How y'all doing, fellas?
Doing good, Randy. How are you, buddy? Enjoyed the show so far, man.
Yeah, well,
filling it up, man.
Yeah, well, it's just to let everybody know who we're looking at here. The guy on the top box there, he might look familiar. I don't know, but that would be my brother Joe Powers.
That's a shiny dome, bro.
Runs in the family.
I didn't get my powder done, man. Makeup girl didn't make it, so I'm blinding some folks today. But yeah, Randy, Rob and Ben down here as well. You see, Rob is the slender quarterback, brain of the bunch, and I'm just picking up. Ben is the beast over there. We call he's the man.
I'll tell you what, I look like the only pencil neck in this view.
We really appreciate you having us on the show here today, Randy. It is a blast. And as Randy said, I'll let Rob and Ben talk a little bit about our show in a minute. But the biggest high school scoreboard show in the state of Georgia. We cover more of the state with call-ins from Rome to Rabun to Long County to Colquitt to the Florida line. Basically, you can pick us up on any of our 13 affiliate stations from WRWH in Cleveland, Georgia, all the way down to the Florida line with 101.3 FM in the middle of the state. We've got 97.5 Wolf Country there. We've got Claxton, Georgia on the air with us here every Friday night from 10 to midnight. And, of course, it all comes from the heart of Georgia down here in the DUB, Dublin, Georgia, for the Rob, Ben, and Joe Show. And Rob and Ben East over there, they're really the highlight of the show. I just sit over here and get a tan on this bald head. That's what I do.
Yeah, Joe, we just really enjoy bringing high school football to the fans in more of a niche. We like to hear from the coaches, administrators. If a coach can't call, sometimes the play-by-play broadcaster give us a shout. And it's been really awesome to give these kids a platform on Friday nights that's more than just 13 WMAZ in a certain market or wherever they may be on their little flash that you have to be sitting in front of a television to see, and people can ride in their car and listen to the post-game show like you would after you got done here in the Georgia Bulldogs or whoever you listen to, and get to see, hey, who in our region played good tonight? Oh, well, let's listen to Rob, Ben, and Joe, and we're going to hear, who played. Well, Dublin played. Well, who did Swainsboro have? Or let's hear from Ware County and Northside one of Robbins, and then one of Robbins calls. And so just being able to give these guys a platform and the coaches to have a platform to have a good message they can give out after a game that they've never had really before. And so it's a really good opportunity for these guys, and we're having a blast with it.
Well, Randy, I'm going to let Rob and Ben get into some stuff in just a minute about some of the players we got around the state. But I wanted to mention for you real quick, you talked about the recruit possibility and the ties with high school football. And, we have a couple of things we promote on our show. And, of course, it's that positive platform for the coaches and the players. But we also give out helmet stickers. So everybody listening in around the state of Georgia that enjoy your show and enjoy going out to a Friday night football game, you can actually see the Rob, Ben, and Joe logo on the back of some of these elite players around the state in high school football, because we send them helmet stickers, and you can see all of that stuff on social media. And then, of course, we partner with our friends at GPB. We are the only show in the state of Georgia that does that with John Nelson every Friday night. And we talk about those players, make that kid an offer is what GPB does. Well, what we do is we promote players and give them a platform to be highlighted with those players of the week. And this year, we're actually going to give away a scholarship offer at the end of the year. We're going to provide a lucky player with some money back to help them go to school. So it's a lot of fun, and we have partners all around the state, including our friends at Sports Mike in Houston County. We cover all 5 of those schools with Sports Mike, and Rob and Ben East, of course, over there know all the coaches from Ware County to, just pick a county in the around the state of Georgia. They probably went to school with somebody, played against somebody, or coached somebody at any of those schools. So they know all the good guys.
Well, I got to tell you, you kind of took my thunder, man. You stole my thunder. I was going to throw you guys some roses because, one of the best things about what, and I appreciate this about you and Rob and Ben, because it's important to me, because it's something that I really like to do. And that is, whatever you're doing, can you spin it forward? Can you put some shine on somebody? Can you lift somebody else up in the process, right? I mean, you're having fun, you're doing what you want to do, but what can you do to help somebody else? And I appreciate about you guys. And I'll just echo what you said, because it's wonderful to give those coaches an opportunity to come on and tell you about this player who has battled through some stuff and now is the player of the week, or had a good game that week, or whatever it is. I mean, when you think back on that in particular, fellas, is there anything over the last couple of seasons, maybe, is there any story that really just, you can't shake it, like it really sticks with you, that you heard live and you weren't expecting to hear from one of those coaches?
Yeah, I think some of the ones that stick out, and this is our 4th season doing this, and before this we were doing play-by-play for Dublin High School, but in the last 4 years, a couple of times, and as tragic as it is and as sad as it is, but you have players that are lost. You have players that pass away for whatever reason in high school, from car accidents or whatever the case might be, and we had one of those last year, and I can't remember the exact school, but I remember after that call, the coach said there was so many, it was as bad as it was, there was so many good things that came out of that whole experience. As bad as it could have been, the kids rallied around each other, and the community and the program and all the players, everybody got so much tighter from that, and realized that in that instant, that it's not so much about football as it is about being a member of a team, and how important that community is. And when we got off that call and we went to a break, and me and Ben and Joe were just kind of all taken aback by that. And we're like, that coach was able to get on our show and share that with somebody, share his story, share that player's story, and his family needs as many prayers as you can get. And we were able to provide that platform, to let that kid get his name out there, what his story was and what happened and how that team honored him. And, it's so much bigger than what we're doing, and I think that was one of the coolest things that we've been able to do so far that I've experienced on the show.
And on the other side of that, I think seeing the emergence of superstars, man. I mean, because what happens is you hear a guy's a sophomore and you hear of his first 120-yard game, and the coach calls in. He's amped up because he's like, man, I got a guy that's, he's all excited because the guy ran for 2 touchdowns and he feels like he's got a man for the next 2 or 3 years. Well, you see that guy transformed. It's not 120 yards. It's 230 yards when he's a senior, and it's 3 touchdowns. And, you hear the same guys week to week, and it almost builds a story from week 1. Well, they call it week 0. Rob corrected me on that. It's week 0 this week. But, to the end of the year, and you hear these same guys that we've given helmet stickers to, and it's like, I can't give him another one this week. This guy's already got 2. But he has 3 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. So what are you going to do? It's like, this guy's just tearing it up. I think seeing the coaches build that story. Some coaches are more lively than others. You hear some that are kind of, this is what it is. Just like when you turn the TV on and Kirby's, real emotional. You see Kirby on the sideline. He's all pumped up. He's running around, screaming and everything. And you get some of that, and then you get some of the even keel too. But I think that's been one of the funnest things, is seeing the emergence of different players and kind of being able to follow that, and then obviously carrying it on to the next stage, to the college football game.
Yeah, it's certainly a good primer. That's the way I look at it. Is I'm sitting here doing this stuff. I'm listening to the games. I can't go to the games because I'm having to work, but it's just teeing it up for the weekend. We're rolling into that weekend. Get a little football going on Fridays, Thursdays, Fridays. And it makes that weekend just feel a little bit fatter, and I like that. That's really cool. So since I have you guys here now, there are some things I could claim to be an expert on. Okay, but given my season in life and given where I'm focusing my attention these days, high school football is not one of them. Now, I can hold my own and talk about, the recruits or maybe the top tier teams, the top level of teams, but that's why I had you guys on here, right? You guys are the experts. So I'm going to pick your brains a little bit. So if you can, take a second here, and obviously it's free for all, so chime in if you feel it. But like, when we look at the state as a whole, let's split it up into 3 sections: North Georgia, Middle Georgia, and South Georgia. So if you were going to give me one team from each of these regions that you were particularly interested in watching this year, who's that team going to be? Who should our viewers look out for and be like, yeah, I'm going to pay attention?
Oh, wow. What a great question there, Rob and Ben. I'm going to take the easy road and let you guys answer that question first. How about that?
Well, I'll take the first one.
Start in
yes.
the quadrant here before you jump off.
Yeah, I'll take it pretty easy and jump in right in here in Middle Georgia. So as you probably know, Swainsboro here in Middle Georgia is very good. They lost a little bit on their offensive and defensive line last year, but they have none other than a Georgia commit in DeMello Jones, who is a 4-star. In my opinion, should be a 5-star. He's extremely fast, and at Georgia they'll use him either as a defensive back or a wide receiver. But I'm telling you guys, I watched him play Dublin in the playoffs last year, and when I say this guy has absolutely phenomenal feel for the game, his instincts are wonderful, and you've ever heard about you can turn the lights off and be in bed before it gets dark? That's that guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
he is that fast, and I remember sitting in the stands, and me and my dad were watching it, and I watched the game differently than most viewers, just because of the way that I look at players. He hit the hole so fast, he was on his own 15-yard line, and he was through the second level before you could blink your eye, and nobody was within 15 yards by the time he got to the 50-yard line. And Dublin has some guys that can run, and nobody was within 20 yards of him when he hit the end zone. And I said, I don't know how many offers that guy has now, but by the time he gets to the playoffs, they'll probably win the state championship.
Yeah.
And if they do, he'll have offers from every Power 5 school in the country, and now he's committed to Georgia. Because people like that, there's one thing you can't teach. You can't teach speed, and he's got a lot of it, and his instincts are wonderful. They move him everywhere at Swainsboro. They let him take some snaps at quarterback. They run him. They throw it to him. But that team is going to be very difficult in this Middle Georgia area to beat in their region, just because when you have one guy in a single A program that's that renowned and that fast, it's very difficult to stop. So that one right off the top, Swainsboro is going to be the number one team that's going to be most difficult to beat in Middle Georgia.
All right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and coming down here, like looking at South Georgia, Ware County had a really good season last year, and I don't think they graduated a ton down there in Waycross. So Ware County should be good again. And Lee County is the Valdosta Lowndes High of old. They cannot, I mean, they're just constantly rolling in talent. Georgia's benefited from a lot of Lee County. Auburn has benefited from a lot of Lee County players. They've almost just an SEC producer, man. They just put out guys, big fast backs, good linebackers, fast cornerbacks, fast receivers, big offensive, defensive linemen. So I think you got to look out for Lee County again this year, making a rumble. Even they kind of started off a little slow last year, had a great start. I mean, ended up coming back and having a good season. And then kind of in a little bit of smaller thing, Brooks County is always really, really, really consistent. They just got a good program down there, and they're real scrappy. And it doesn't matter who's on their roster. They're always really tough to play. So kind of in that southeast, southwest Georgia down there, I would be looking out for those cats.
And I think in the northern portion of it too, Randy, I hate to even say this because they've been so good for so long, and this is almost like Rob, are you kidding me? Are you really going to throw this in here? But I think you know where I'm going with it. Buford with RAIOLA coming in, KJ Bolden. You've got Edric Houston. I mean, you've got 3 players in the top 6 players in the country, on one high school football team. And so I think Buford is the obvious one up there that I think this year, they're always good. Okay, don't get me wrong. But I think this year, with the talent that they have, especially at the quarterback position with RAIOLA, I mean, you don't see that many 5-stars, and they got 3.
Yeah,
it's wild, man. I mean, I don't see anybody really beating those guys as long as they stay healthy. You know what I'm saying? But Buford's going to be the one up north that I think that's going to stick out to you. I mean, there's a lot of great players in the Metro Atlanta area, North Georgia, but as far as the total, if you're going to pick a Friday night, you want to go somewhere, Buford's got all the star power you could imagine, man. And
I mean, to kind of hop on that, when is Prince Avenue going to ever fall off? Because Prince Avenue just consistently gets it done. They got players, last year in the state championship game, you got a guy that's got a broken collarbone still hanging out there wide receiver. And it's like, man, what is Prince Avenue doing? Is this like Buford? I mean, these guys are unbelievable. Aaron Philo at quarterback he's a really, really good player. And they just got pieces around him. The Vandegrift guy's got that. He's just got that machine pumping. So, I mean, I really think those 2 powerhouses, kind of in each section of the north part of the state they're just going to be really hard to beat.
Well, man, I'll tell you what. See, people, I told you. Let me tell you something. There are there are no rookies on this record. All right. You don't make it on this show unless you know what you're talking about. That's my promise to you. So, and if you haven't already, these dudes, Joe and Rob and Ben, not only are they on YouTube, they're on Facebook. Go check them out, y'all. I'm telling you, if this is the kind of stuff that interests you, if you want to see the guys, hear about the guys before they jump to the top tier of the recruiting lists, this is where you need to be. So go check these fellas out. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring Joe back in here real quick because I'm going to change it up just a little bit. Don't worry, it's nothing too bad. But what I'm going to do is that was great. But what I would like to know is there any team anywhere in the state, or you can break it out by region if it's easier, but is there any team that we need to look out for as a surprise? Anybody that you think might jump out there that we don't know about necessarily?
Oh yeah,
Go ahead, Joe.
I gotta
go ahead, fire away.
I gotta go with this one, guys. There's a couple that I have been just kind of talking to, and I love the fact that we get to talk to these coaches all in the off season. Again, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and Facebook. You can find us at RBJ Show on any of those places, or online. You can go to the website rbjshow.com. You can check it out there as well. But I'm going to go with Coach Kurt Williams in Lanier County. Anybody on this show that's watching or listening can tell me where Lanier County is with Kurt Williams High School. Y'all get $1, okay? I'll tell you. And Rob, get $1 out of it. I don't know. But Lanier County, Kurt Williams, head coach down there, he took over that program now 2 years ago. They went 0-10 his first year. Last year, he took the program to the playoffs for the first time ever in school history, got a playoff win in the first playoff game of the postseason. And he's got a team coming back and is going to be ready to repeat and move on from there. But Kurt Williams, coach down there in Lanier County, is something that if you hadn't heard about him, and you probably haven't, you'll want to go check it out because they have they're doing some good things down there. Some other places, the Blue Tide, if you haven't
Long County,
the Blue Tide. If you haven't picked up on those boys yet, they're down near Savannah, but they got a program rolling down there.
Ludwig. Randy, these guys had not made the playoffs like ever. They hadn't won more than 5 or 6 games
of their
like in the
school.
history of the school
ever.
And last year, they went to the playoffs. I believe they were like 8-2 or something.
Yeah.
And,
Really
just an
regular
amazing transformation to a school that's just been historically not good. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no other way to put it. And then they've just been able to kind of turn the tide. I mean, and they're one of those teams that Long County could make some noise.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously here we're alumni there, but Dublin could surprise some people in that region. They're in Swainsboro's region, and here's why they could surprise some people. They got a junior quarterback coming back, super athletic kid, very fast, can throw the ball pretty decent, but his running is his strength. But a lot of people don't know. Dublin has an offensive defensive tackle, Nasir Johnson, 6'5", 305, committed to Florida. He's been offered by everybody in the country.
He can do a backflip standing flat-footed.
And some people have probably seen that video on TikTok that got him popular, but he can dunk a basketball 360 it, and he's 6'5", 305, very fast guy. He's going to make a lot of problems for a lot of teams in that region. And Dublin has a lot of kids coming back, which they don't really, a lot of people don't know that. They're very senior laden. Damari Foster played fullback for him last year. They moved him to the H-back. He was 1,000-yard rusher last year. And so Dublin has the pieces there to be able to compete with Swainsboro if they can slow DeMelo Jones down. So that'll be the two in that region. So Dublin is a sneaker there that could really sneak up, because a lot of people do not know that Nasir Johnson, the 4-star lineman, is coming out of Dublin. He's going to be one of the highest rated recruits to ever come out of Dublin.
But it is a stretch because Dublin is historically good. Because we are good.
Yeah, all of that is true. But I will say that remember where you are. This is a Dogs podcast. And Nasir was one of those dudes that Kirby, they had their eyes on him for a minute. He was a Georgia consideration. They were going after him hard. And when he chose to go to Florida, Kirby's just one of those dudes, whether he was going to be, maybe he wasn't, I don't want to classify. I don't know how he looked on Georgia's board, but whether he was the top guy or the third guy, Kirby's competitive enough to where he didn't want to let that dude go to Florida. You know what I mean? So he wanted him to be a Bulldog, but he went to Florida. Best of luck to him. We'll see you in Jacksonville is all I can say. But good luck to the young man. Again, his athleticism and his size. I mean, there's that term that gets thrown around, those 1% humans. I don't know
He's one
what
of
his
them.
wingspan is or anything, but it sounds like if he's not 1, he's maybe 1.5% as far as his size and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a name. That's a name we do recognize. There's no doubt about that. Now, I can't let you get away. You guys brought Buford up, and you mentioned RAIOLA transferring in.
Mhm.
Obviously, Georgia fans' ears perk up when they hear anything about Buford, maybe because they don't, they feel like Buford has it in for us, or because of RAIOLA, because obviously he's one of the top players in the country this year. But have you guys allowed yourself to think into the fall far enough to recognize that the number 1 player in the country for 2026, JUJU Lewis, plays at Carrollton? That kid has offers from everybody. And in fact, he's already cut his field down to, I think it's like 12, maybe 8, something like that. Because he just had to, let everybody know, look, here's where I'm looking. But he's at Carrollton as a sophomore, and there's a chance that Dylan and KJ could end up playing JUJU in the playoffs somewhere down the road. Now, just allow yourselves to think about that for a second. Can you imagine the kind of hype that's going to be around that ball game?
Yeah, that's going to be absolutely crazy, Randy, right there. And one of the things that I love, Rob and Ben obviously just tuned into that. But I mentioned earlier that we have John Nelson that joins our show each and every Friday night. And, we do a lot of cutting up with John, but we also talk a lot about exactly that question right there as we go through the season week to week, and we're looking at kind of how things are shaking out. That's one of the things that we always come back to with that segment in the second hour of our show. But I'll give the floor to Rob and Ben, the guys over there that really understand what that competition is going to be like moving ahead.
Well, I think what that allows him to do is it allows somebody like, JUJU, the guy, the Lewis kid, to really showcase what he's about as a sophomore.
Yeah.
Hey, let me show you why I'm the number 1 guy in this class. And, hey, man, RAIOLA's been at the top for what, 3-4 years? I mean, he's been out since freshman, sophomore. He's been at the top of the list. And so have some of these other guys. So it's like, hey, man, I might be a sophomore, but let me show you what I can do. And what that does is it creates hype around Friday night, and it allows them to spar a little bit kind of in the week. I mean, these kids are on Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook. They kind of go back and forth. And now, KJ and some of these guys, they've chosen where they're going. So it kind of builds a little bit. And hey, man, it might inspire him to go to one of those schools because he plays RAIOLA. He's like, hey, man, I want to go play with that guy. I've been on the field with him, and I'm going to play with him. It could seal the deal on where he chooses to go. But as far as under the lights, there's nothing more electrifying than that, and you get that in the 4-5A matchups towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and Randy, you obviously know this, being a big Georgia guy, and this is kind of what you do. But the state of Georgia has the most high school football talent in the entire country. I know people will throw Texas and Alabama and everything, but Kirby Smart has brought this program that you cover a lot in Georgia. He's brought it to the forefront. Just pull up their roster. And over 50% of that roster is from where?
Georgia.
The state of Georgia. And the reason why is because he knows how talent rich it is. Just go through the list that we just had right here. I mean, the top 50 players, there's at least 5 on the list that are committed to Georgia. The talent is so good in this state, and you're going to see it in these regions when they go to the playoffs and they play these guys, or even in a 5 or a 6A matchup. Just come down here to Warner Robins and Northside. I mean, you got guys that are committed to Georgia, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Alabama. They're all playing each other. Mm-hmm. And so we're so lucky in our state to be so serious about the game of football, and we have such good high school coaches. People do not realize in our state how fortunate and blessed we are to have such good high school coaches, high school staffs. The facilities that we have in our state, they're next to none in a lot of these programs, and we're just so lucky to see these games unfold, and we get to watch and follow these kids as sophomores and see where he's going to end up going in like matchups like that. I mean, that's as good as it gets in high school.
It allows these kids to be ready. That's how you turn on the TV on Saturday, and you're like, how in the world is this guy, true freshman, back here playing safety for the University of Georgia, able to make that play? Well, he's able to make that play because his high school coaches should be coaching college, but there's coach in high school. But the guy knows, because guess what? When he got back there and they said, hey, man, cover 3 buzz, that's what we're doing. We need you to bluff this a little bit. He's been doing that. So you throw him out there on Saturday in Jordan Hare, and guess where he shows up? He shows up in the 3rd quarter when somebody's hurt. because the junior guy got hurt. Throw the true freshman there, he makes the play of the game.
Wow, that's the way it is.
I'm telling you, it's awesome.
Well, you know what they say about the SEC? It just means more. And when you can follow these kids from, their freshman year in high school and then watch them go play here in the footprint somewhere, I mean, that would be why. I mean, you get invested as a fan.
Yeah,
if you're a real football fan, that's how you build that kind of, I bleed red and black feeling, Now,
sure.
I bleed red and black, but not everybody on this call does. So with that in mind, this is a college football show. So I wanted to take a second because you guys do, you hold it down every Friday, 10 to 12, the call-in show for the high schools. But you guys and Joe, you also have a tie to the state programs here in Georgia at the college level. So that's everybody. It's not just UGA. It's not Georgia Tech. Tell us about, so Joe, you take the floor first. Tell us about what you're doing with these places, how you interact with these colleges. And then Rob and Ben, if you will, come up on the heels of that and sort of just give me your thoughts about the state of college football here in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, Randy. Well, thanks for that. And, first let me remind everybody that WRBJradio.com, where our streaming radio station, we have all day Saturday sports. Randy's program that you see kicks off that programming at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, WRBJradio.com. But after that, of course, we carry Georgia State football here. So Sean Elliott, the head coach over there, is very kind to us and gives us opportunities to do a lot with that program, as well as Dave Cohen, the radio play-by-play guy for the Panthers. We also have connections with Kennesaw State. Obviously, Rob and Ben graduating from Mercer University. And, we go all around the state and have great communications and opportunities to go to these elite all-star games that you see up in Rome at the end of the year, the All-American Bowl out in San Antonio. We even go to Gatlinburg for that All-American Bowl up there in Gatlinburg. And we like to kind of be that conduit, if you will, from high school to college as a show and, for what we do. So we do communicate with all the coaches around the state. We've had guests on Andy Demetra, of course, from Georgia Tech, the voice of the Yellow Jackets. Robin Ben might know him. He's been on the show with us here. We've had guys from Kentucky, from Texas A&M. We've had Chuck Dowdle along with us. Vince Dooley, bless his soul, was with us a couple of years ago. So we have all these people that come on our podcast, on our show, and chat with us, and we do make those connections and ties between the high school playoffs and players that are elite, those 1%ers, and the colleges that are around the state. But Rob and Ben, I'll let you talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, on Saturdays, you really can't go wrong in the state of Georgia. I mean, obviously it starts with Georgia and Athens, and they've had so much success here recently, and obviously there's a lot of people around the country now that know where the state of Georgia is because of that. But when you trickle down this year, Georgia Tech should be better. I mean, Coach Key should have been hired 5 years ago instead of the used vacuum salesman that Tech had the last 5 years, and so he should have been hired the first go around. But he took his own. Yeah, I'm telling you, and
everyone in Bobby Dodd Stadium says that.
It says that. So, anyways, Key should have been hired 5 years ago. We should be better. And this is just being realistic. If we make 6 or 7 wins, that'll be a win as bad as it's been in Atlanta for Georgia Tech here the last couple of years. Key's got a lot of work to do, not just with the football program, but there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes at Tech that is a mess. So they got a lot of work to do there. And then our where I played football and Ben played at Mercer University in Macon, that program, we started that program. We were part of the first team in 2013 that brought that football program back. Most Division I wins by a startup program in the history of startups. And we had the first season that we had, and shortly after that, we moved to the Southern Conference. And in the SoCon, Mercer, do not sleep on these guys. That's right. do not sleep on these guys in the SoCon. They just missed the playoffs last year. Coach Drew Kronick at Mercer is doing a really, really good job.
Ranked 22nd in the preseason.
Ranked 22nd in the preseason polls for the Mercer Bears. So go Bears, bear down, baby. But they should be a lot better in the FCS RANs there, and they should have a chance to win the Southern Conference. And so, and I'll leave this to Ben. He's going to talk a little bit more about it. But you can go anywhere in the state of Georgia on a Saturday and you can get some really good football because of the high school football programs that we have in this state.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at a school like Georgia Southern with Clay Helton down there, the things they got going on. That program is going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be good. They had, they were good a few years ago when Willie Fritz was there. They were really kind of peaking. He kind of left them in a lull, went through some trouble there with a coach or two. But Clay Helton, they have got a guy down there that knows what's going on. He can recruit. And I went to a game last year, believe it or not, first time that I've actually been to Georgia Southern, which is, I can't believe to say that, at almost 30s, first time I've been down there. Great atmosphere. He's got some things going. They've got the athletic directors behind them. The whole boosters are behind them. I'd watch out for Georgia Southern. They're going to really make some rumblings.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I have to say, Kennesaw State, man, I'm telling you what, they're going to make the jump to FBS in 24, I believe. But what a program. I mean, coming out, for a school that was, decent basketball, pretty good baseball, whatever, but kind of right there in the heart of Atlanta. And then they've been able to, how many times do we see a team like that bring in football on the FCS level and just be garbage? I mean, you see that all the time. They can't get it going. Yep. But Brian Bohannon, those guys, man, they got it going on. I mean, they've won from day one. They have been successful from day one. They murder people with the triple option. It's just, they've taken just pieces around the state of Georgia, guys that were just a hair short, maybe a little bit not on the intangible side,
right?
Filling them in, and they win. And that's why they're going to be in the FCS or going to the FBS. And that's why I think you got to look out for Kennesaw State this year. I think they'll have another good year, kind of prepping them to go to the FBS level. But it's amazing to me that they made that transition so fast.
And I'm glad, Ben, that you brought up Georgia Southern and Kennesaw State both, because Nolan Alexander, the voice of Kennesaw, I was just talking with him the other day. They've got a couple of those FBS games on the calendar this year, and that's going to be fun to see. But we will be carrying some of their content on WRBJ radio as well. But Randy, I was just talking to Jared Binko, who's the AD at Georgia Southern, just yesterday or the day before. We were on the phone together. And let me tell you, Clay Helton, of course, we had an exclusive interview with him here on our show when he came to Southern. But, he's going to score points. There's no problem there. But that defense this year, y'all, it's Southern. Check it out. Little birdie told me, all right, they're pretty good on the defensive side of the ball down there this year.
They got
some things going on down there.
So a lot of speed and size. That's right. And I think with us carrying Georgia State, I think they get missed a lot of times. Sometimes you might turn on the TV and you're like, Georgia State, 12 o'clock. I'm going to go over here and watch somebody else in the Big Ten or whatever.
Get you going, man.
Sean Elliott's a great coach, and those guys play with fire. They really put out a good product, and they play in a tough conference. I mean, that conference is so even. All those teams are about the same, but kind of the cream rises to the top a little bit. But we're just, the state of Georgia, just from high school to college, from all the ranks, FCS up to the FBS, can't miss it, man. I mean, it's just really, really strong football from all corners.
I think Tennessee knows a little something about Georgia State, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. I see in the chat over here. They're talking about some big orange in Tennessee. We can get you some tape on that game if y'all need to see it, fellas. Over there.
Oh, beware the Panthers. Beware the Panthers. Now I'm not going to hold it against you, fellas, but I do have to point out that y'all kind of sped through the Georgia part of that conversation there. So,
hey, we leaving that up to you, man. This is your platform here. I'll make one comment, Randy, about the Georgia Bulldogs that I absolutely love. I'm a defensive purist. There's nothing better than turning on the TV, and when you see the guys in the silver breeches take the field, there's nothing like those guys just shoving it down their throat. There's nobody that plays defense better than Georgia right now. Alabama's defense has not been relevant since Kirby was there, period. I don't care what anybody says. They haven't been. Kirby was the secret sauce at Alabama on the defensive side of the ball. That's why Saban has struggled. He can't stop anybody. Guy last year kind of found some stuff. He still got the pieces, but Kirby was the answer. Kirby coaches every position. You turn on the TV, you can watch Ryan Day, you can watch all these guys across the board. Nobody coaches as hard on the defensive side of the football as Kirby Smart, and it shows. He will blister a cornerback on a play that is a non-play. Like it's 3rd and 12, he will jump the guy that was on he wasn't even in the play. Kirby saw something that will cost him later in the game, but he wants to coach that point right there. He's just got instinctual ability to coach, and he sees everything. And just the defense has been so prolific, and I love the fact that Georgia says, this is what makes them good in my opinion. Georgia says, Kirby's identity is nobody's going to run the ball on me. It's not going to happen. They're not going to run the ball on me. And he did that at Alabama. Remember the LSU events when they couldn't move the ball, field goal games, they couldn't move it on him.
Yep.
He took that to Georgia. No one can still run the ball on Kirby Smart. I've yet to see it. They cannot move the football on the ground against Kirby. That's why Georgia's so successful. You can't beat a team if you can't run the ball. You can come out and throw it 50 times a game, but eventually you have to put that sucker on the ground because it comes down to 3rd and 2, 4th and 1. And Georgia's got those big hog mollies, the front 7. They're so athletic. They plug all the gaps. They're the best gap sound defense in America over the last 3 or 4 years. And just what they do on that side of the football is inspiring. I love watching it. Nobody does defense better than the Georgia Bulldogs.
And I will say this, Randy, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in, being the quarterback and the offensive guy over here in the room. I think that my outlook on Georgia, their schedule's very favorable. They're very good. I mean, they got a lot of guys returning. But I think the biggest question mark that I have for Georgia, I think they can win all the games in the regular season. I firmly believe that with the talent load that they have on both sides of the football. I don't have any doubts in that. The biggest thing that I have is I think some people underestimate the Stetson Bennett effect and how good he was for the offense as a whole. And I'm not talking about he's a talented kid, athletic. I'm talking about the mental culture of that offense. Always chip on your shoulder, didn't matter, 6-year guy. Everybody told me I couldn't do it. That offense just looks different with him not out there. And so I think the biggest thing I'm looking for, because I played quarterback and I know how it is to be in those huddles, how is Beck going to handle that? What's the offense going to look like with that new QB out there? Like I said, they can stumble through a lot of these games and have very mediocre quarterback play. I mean, I think they maybe could go undefeated in the regular season and have mediocre quarterback play because their defense is so good, as Ben just alluded to. But when you get in that SEC championship game, when you get in these playoff games, Stetson Bennett was the one that was able to make some of those plays. And look, I was one of his biggest critics 2 years ago when he was starting, and Kirby gave this guy the nod. And I was like, man, this guy, I don't really, he's a walk-on, like he's undersized, all the stuff you heard on the TV. I was right there with him. But after he does it once, when he comes back and he's consistently doing the same thing, it's his genotype as a player. He brought so much to that offense as a culture-wise. So I think that's the biggest thing. Who's the guy on offense that's going to say, hey, I'm going to drive this Georgia offense like Stetson Bennett did, score 38-plus a game? I mean, that's the biggest thing I have. Is Beck going to have that type of mentality, that striker, that snake mentality on the offense that's going to be able to match that defensive play? So I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking for on Georgia. Who's going to step up on the offensive side of the ball and kind of take those reins on that side?
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that.
It's like Kirby said, we will not be hunted. So everything still has to be proven, to your point. I mean, we all feel good about the quarterback room, but you're right. Stetson had that clutch gene. That was one of the reasons he got drafted. And if you look back at this past weekend's NFL games, all those quarterbacks that were taken, which one had the best weekend? Stetson Bennett. And the thing that they said about him when they took him was one of his best traits is how he can leave it behind him. He can let it go. Whatever happened, just move on to the next play and go get it. And he had ultimate confidence in his own ability, and then he had wonderful playmakers around him, and he would stick it in that window if he had to. So we have thrown our roses at Stetson. I was in the same boat as you. I was converted. And then I've tried to make up for that in the time I've had this platform and just let everybody know he has earned, he is right up there. He's clearly the best quarterback in the history of the University of Georgia. He's in the discussion.
Absolutely.
Yep.
For when you stack accomplishments, right? Not athletic ability, but accomplishments. Then you have to look at him as one of the best players in the history of the program. So you will not hear me say anything bad about the mailman. That ship has that is long gone. So I got nothing.
Well,
left
Randy,
for that.
I know you guys probably got to get wrapping up over there at some point. I don't know. We'll sit here and talk football all night, but I do want to just say two things real quick. One, again, we welcome Dan Beast Media, and how about them Dogs football to WRBJradio.com. You guys check it out. He'll be there Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. on the nose, and you can stick around for some Georgia State football right there. But we really appreciate you having us on the show here too.
Listen, what kind of host would I be? And again, guys, thank you so very much for coming here and classing up the joint a little bit and bringing a little expertise in an area that, you know, I could use a little help, because I feel like our fans, our viewers are going to walk away from tonight knowing a little bit more about high school football here in the state of Georgia. And what kind of host would I be if I didn't give you a chance to look at the camera, look square in the eye of our fans here, and just let everybody know where they can find you if they would like to find you on social media or at the show. Joe, you go first, since you produced the thing. You go first. Let everybody know where they can find you. Rob and Ben, take your turn after Joe.
Sure. Yeah, guys, I'll start with the radio side, guys, and I'll let you have the socials. How about that? You can find us, the new online streaming radio station that will be officially launched. You can go to the website now and, you know, peruse around, WRBJradio.com. And I was real original in my name, WRBJ, Rob, Ben, and Joe, WRBJradio.com. Check it out there. It is up, and we will have that streaming for you fully with our high school scoreboard show and some great music as well beginning this Friday. So check that out. And, of course, Randy and his program will be there on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Robin, Ben?
On the socials, Facebook, you can find us at the Rob, Ben, and Joe Show, and then on Instagram and the others at RBJ Show. And, guys, I just want to encourage you that you can listen to us anywhere digitally. If you go onto our page on Facebook or Instagram, you can see the radio stations that we're on. If we're in your terrestrial area, you can listen to it that way. But after your high school games, wherever you're going to watch the teams that you support, or if you're just, you know, winding down after a night on a long Friday and you want to listen and catch up on the rundown and on what's important in Georgia high school football, we talk to 20 to 30 high school coaches any given Friday night, all the way from Rome to Ware County to Colquitt to here in Middle Georgia to Dublin or wherever you want to listen to. And we have the best high school content that you'll come across. And it's all about trying to get coaches on here that can talk about their players, talk about their programs, and you hear it straight from the coaches. You don't hear it from a fan or anybody else. You're going to hear it from the coaches or an administrator. And that's the biggest piece of our show that we're trying to provide, and give these schools a platform to get these kids noticed, to get their name out there, and to give some of these kids some recognition that they otherwise wouldn't have across the state.
Right. Absolutely. And if you're like Rob just said, if you can't find one of those radio stations, you can always pull us up on our website at rbjshow.com. You can click a link. It'll be buzzing 10 to 12, and we run it up to midnight. If they'd let us go till 12:30, we'd keep going.
Yeah,
and we, in our last little 15 minutes of the show, we get prepped up before the clock hits midnight, because as soon as it's 12:01, it's time for, you know, college game day.
That's right.
We run down the last 10 or 15 minutes, give a little college football spiel. We kind of take a few picks, maybe throw a few lines out there, you know, maybe take a bet or two, show who's up and who's not, and who's going to be a bust for Saturday. Yeah. So, guys, if y'all are riding around, and trust me, you won't be disappointed, and it'll be something to suit your ear on a Friday night.
There you go. We appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for having us, Randy, and it's WRBJradio.com. You can find it all right there, coming this Friday and Saturday.
Wonderful, fellas. Thank you again so much for being here with us. Top to bottom, front to back, nobody's got you covered. College football, high school football, everything going on in the state of Georgia, like this group right here. So follow us, check us out, stick with us. That's going to wrap it up for this week. Until next time, go Dogs.
Told them, how about them fucking dogs? That's what I told them.
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that.